Munfish is under attack because they live in Russia and they might be supporting Russia in the war effort. Can you dig it?
Let's go.
Let's just jump right into this. Munfish is a studio that exists in Russia. They make video games and they have a game called Atomic Heart coming out on February 21st. It looks like a pretty interesting game. It definitely gives me some BioShock vibes, but it looks like it could be a very fun, entertaining video game. I might try it on Game Pass day one. I don't know if I will though, because at the time I'll probably be playing Final Fantasy Theatrhythm because I'm a big fan of that series. But all the same, they are under controversy simply because, you know, they're from Russia. So the people have actually reached out to Munfish and asked them directly, will the profits from your video game support Russia and essentially, you know, help fund the war against Ukraine? And Munfish, naturally, and I'll get back to this, they kind of skated around the question and said, hey, we believe in equality for everyone. Our game's we're just focusing on making the best game we can so that everyone can play and enjoy it. You know, they kind of tiptoed around the question. And that's the reason why people are jumping to this conclusion that if you buy or support this game, you're, whether you mean to or not, you're supporting the war efforts in Russia. And so people are calling naturally to boycott and not support this game. But I think there's more to it than I think people are thinking about, because nothing is that cut and dry in this scenario. For starters, let's talk about Munfish, the fact that they even live in Russia. You see, I think when people jump to this conclusion that they're a bad company because they're supporting Russia, they might not at all want to support Russia. They might not want to support the war efforts. They might not want to do any of that. But here's the thing, they live in Russia, guys. So what that means is they don't have the same freedoms that people like us in the United States, or in several places across the world for that matter, have. You can't just go out and openly talk smack on your country like we can here in the US. If you do that in countries like Russia and China, for example, bad things will probably happen to you and bad things will probably happen to your family. As a matter of fact, there have been nothing but constant cases of this exact thing that I'm talking about happening to people in Russia and in China for doing exactly that. You don't have the freedom of speech that you might think you have. You can't even get online and say things indirectly because they will hunt you down for doing such things. So Munfish, they're not going to say whether or not they support the war effort. They're not going to, admonish the war efforts, because they know that if they do, their motherland could literally shut down their game studio immediately. So they have to, by default, tread water very, very carefully. A lot of frog kicking. And yes, it should go without saying that if you buy Atomic Heart or you play this game and all of that stuff, that the proceeds of this game could very well, through even just the simple tax system of Russia, go directly into Russia's bank account. That's how things work. But here's the flip side of that. If that bothers you, then you really have to take a look at everything we own here, even in the United States. For example, a vast majority of the clothes we wear or the shoes we wear are brought to us through things like child labor and awful work conditions and foreign countries that don't have it as well as we do, and those workers are living day-to-day lives trying just to put scraps of food on their tables for their families. So yeah, this is the problem I have with this issue. This is the issue I have with people trying to boycott Munfish for basically being a studio, a game studio, existing in Russia. If you're not going to support this game because, they live in Russia and the proceeds of this game could possibly fund the Ukraine war, then you need to take a step back and quit supporting a whole bunch of other things for doing arguably just as awful of things. Like I said, even the shoes you wear, if they're, or any product that's from China for that matter, there is a definite chance that that product that you're using is basically being ran through sweatshops and bad working conditions and child labor. And I'm not saying it's an okay thing, but I'm saying I don't think people realize just how much of the stuff and the products we use on a day-to-day basis are, indirectly profiting horrible people and horrible companies. I mean, if you wanted to boycott companies and, game studios for doing awful things or even under suspicion of awful things, you can boycott Nintendo, Xbox, Microsoft Studios, Quantic Dream, Activision Blizzard, Ubisoft, Capcom, EA, Koei Tecmo. I mean, you just name it, man. Like there's red lining on every company. No such company is perfect. People aren't perfect, and I'm not going to boycott Munfish simply because they live in Russia and the possibility of their proceeds could be taxed and fund the war effort. I mean, there's wars going on all across the world, so it just doesn't make sense to me to be that upset or to even go out of the way to accuse people and say they're awful if they play this game. It's the Hogwarts Legacy conundrum all over again. You try to get people to feel bad and tell them they're horrible simply for wanting to play a game, and all that does is make them want to play it more, and it gives the video game itself more attention, and it becomes very, very successful, even more successful than you probably would have ever wanted it to be. So I guess the lesson of the day is to just quit being a dick to people for playing a video game, because there's no such thing as being able to play a game that isn't under controversy at this point. It's a global effort, and whether we like it or not, countries aren't perfect, people aren't perfect, and most things are corrupt, and most things are just not that great, and that's unfortunately the reality. But it's almost impossible now to not be intentionally or unintentionally complicit in some way, shape, or form to something that is bad. But let me know what you guys think about this Munfish situation. Are you going to play Atomic Heart, or do you feel like taking a stand against Russia vicariously through boycotting Munfish? I guess that's the thing you can do. Let me know in the comments down below. And as always, guys, thank you for taking the time to watch this. I am Bradley Overrated, out like a trout. And yeah, I'll see you on the next one. Now, if you'll excuse me, I'm probably going to be playing some Theatrhythm, if it's out now. It's out sometime this week. Very excited for this game, though. Later.